My name is Elizabeth Nash, and my country presentation is about Bolivia. And the mountain in the background is Mount Sajama. It's the highest peak in Bolivia. This is Bolivia's flag. It's also known as the tricolor. The top stripe is red, and it stands for the valor and bravery of Bolivian soldiers. The green stripe symbolizes the terrain, and the middle yellow stripe symbolizes Bolivia's mineral resources and wealth. And right in the center of the flag is the national coat of arms. This is a map of Bolivia. La Paz is the capital city. There is the second capital, which is named Sucre, which is named after the first president of Bolivia, and it's where the Supreme Court resides. Some economics of Bolivia. The population is approximately 9.12 million, with 1.5 of those residing in and around La Paz. The industry of Bolivia includes mining, which is done by residents of the rural areas in the tin mines, smelting, petroleum, food, and beverages. The agriculture, which is one of the biggest resources of Bolivia, includes soybean farming, coffee, coca plant growing, cotton, and timber. Their exports include soybeans, natural gas, zinc, gold, and wood. Some history of Bolivia. In the ancient times, around 400 BC, the Spaniards, specifically Simon Bolivar, conquered the area and founded the city of Tiahuanaco. In the colonial Bolivia time frame, the Spaniards founded more cities, including La Paz, and the Indians were forced to work in the mines, and many of them died. So they decided that they wanted to rebel against the Spaniards, causing the Great Rebellion, but they failed. In independent Bolivia in 1809, the independence is declared in La Paz because Bolivia rebels against Spanish rule, and in 1825, Bolivia becomes independent. So the first president is General Sucre, and he decided that he wanted to try and unite with Peru, but the Chileans felt threatened, and the War of the Confederation happened, and it ultimately ended that union. So in 1879, Bolivia increased taxation on the Chilean-owned nitrate companies, which naturally started another war. But in the late 19th century, the silver industry in Bolivia was revived with help by capital from Britain and Chile, along with technology. In 20th century, it was really just all about wars, rebellions, coups, and revolutions for Bolivia. They lost power to liberals, got it back via conservatives, fought a war with Paraguay, only to be taken over by radicals, who launched a revolution and regained power to Bolivia. So now in the 21st century, the economy has grown. Evo Morales is elected president, and Bolivia still remains a poor country, but it's rich in resources, tourism being the greatest. The social makeup of Bolivia revolves predominantly around religion. About 95% of the country is Roman Catholic, and the leftover 5% is Protestant. The ethnicities that make up Bolivia are for the most part Indian, which are either Quechua or Aymara, and the rest are mixed ethnicities, and the official language is Spanish. The demographics of Bolivia are that it is in Central South America, southwest of Brazil, and has Brazil, Argentina, Peru, Chile, and Paraguay bordering it. Social relations in Bolivia are for the most part centered on family and friends. The family is the axis of the social life and structure, with most families being very large. The marriages take place at a young age. There's traditional dating. The parents either know the potential suitor or their family, or they try to get to know the suitor before they are allowed to date their children. And the women of Bolivia have a lower social status than the men, but they're seen as very important in business and trade activities such as street vending. Primary education is available to all children. It's just not accessible to all of them. Government-funded universities for those who qualify, as well as private for more wealthy. In the rural areas, the residents farm, they mine for tin, or they grow coca plants in the lowlands. In the towns, the job industry is better because people can get an education. They have accessibility to the trade market. Those jobs are street vendors, construction workers, maids and housekeepers, plumbers, electricians, or carpenters. And the middle class is seen as the more wealthy or elite class, where the education is advanced and there are way better opportunities. These are the professionals. They have the jobs of doctors, lawyers, engineers, and technicians of different varieties. Sports also play a big part of the social relations of Bolivia. There are many professional sports teams. The most popular is soccer, and matches are held in a couple of stadiums. The most well-known stadium is the Hernando Siles Stadium in the city of La Paz. A lot of current and regional issues happening in Bolivia right now, but a couple of really important ones are the pressing problem of poverty, with about 60% of Bolivians living below the national poverty line. And the percentage is, of course, higher for rural areas where 3 out of 4 people live in poverty. And in the rural areas, there's such a lack of job opportunities and poor natural resource management practices, as well as limited access to basic services such as primary education, health, and sanitation. Which leads us to another current issue in Bolivia that's happening right now, which is the cocaine industry. Because indigenous people have been growing and consuming the coca leaf for thousands of years, the rising demand for cocaine in the United States is restructuring their economy rapidly, and it's producing about 40 to 45% of the world's supply of the coca leaf and coca paste. The Chapare tropical rainforest area in the department of Cochabamba alone supplies 70% of the nation's coca leaf crop. This is a big problem because cocaine is being trafficked into the United States as well as other countries at an increased rate. So if it's producing enough economy for the rural and indigenous area to survive on, then it's going to continue to inflate despite the efforts of programs to increase the use of farming crops through crop substitution. And this brings us to the issue of poverty with President Morales, who recently won this year's election to become president for another term. He is the country's first president with indigenous roots, so it makes him very popular among the rural population. But he has successfully managed to grow the economy at a healthy rate, shrink inequality, and reduce the number of people living in poverty significantly. The problem is that Mr. Morales may have a prolonged term of power if elected again, and with the new generation of Caudillos being anti-American, the engagement on development, military cooperation, and drug enforcement efforts will be limited. So lawmakers see this as a problem because the pattern of prolonged power is unhealthy for the region. It enables the leader to appoint allies to electoral and judicial bodies and build patronage networks that turn out the vote, so he will always win the election. But it's just a little something extra that I learned about Bolivia is the Death Road, which is a huge tourist attraction for mountain bikers, or leisure bikers, or anybody who just wants to see the Death Road, and it just is slightly terrifying. So that is all. Thank you.